Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Animac here from Anime Uproar, and welcome to a brand new episode of the One Piece Virgin podcast. In this one, we're tackling Zou, an arc that was quite short and yet very important. And joining us now for the first time on the One Piece Virgin, we got the one and only RogersBase.
Thank you very, very much for having me. Thank you for having the leader of the Mammoth Boys on during the story arc. We were talking about the Mammoth Boy himself, Mammoth Boy number one, Mr. Jack the Trout. Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Roger. And I'm going to warn you right now, the Nux is going to make Davey 504 jokes the whole time.
You know what? I'm prepared for it, honestly, at this point.
RogersBase.
Ace. Right. Which you just found out today is a reference to my real name, Roger D. Luigi, and not Goldie Rogers' pirate face in One Piece.
Animac, when you said Davey references, I thought you were going to say because Jack gets slapped like slappers.
I like that.
Jack
Yeah,
does
and
get
of course we
slapped
have
on.
Nux and Briggs here as well.
Nux and Briggs!
Yes.
Yo,
they're here.
Roger, I'm happy to have you here. Finally, we've been saving you. Goddamn, we've been
I'm
saving
happy.
it for this moment.
I'm glad you
Zou
saved me
arc.
for Zou. I'm so glad you saved me for Zou, because in particular, this arc, I know not a lot of people agree with me, this arc is my favorite story arc of the post-time skip era. And judging on where even the current story arc is, and I won't get too much into it, I don't want to get into spoilers or anything, but I can't see that
an
changing
elitist out here.
Yeah. I'm just saying that this is personally my favorite post-time skip story arc as of, what day are we recording this? October 27th, 2020.
I mean, I don't agree, but I think that it is definitely...
Yo, Animac doesn't agree, and he's only had like 2 arcs.
But it's definitely a good one. Like, I feel like a lot of people, in terms of guessing, that a lot of people are going to be like, oh, I don't like Zou that much because it didn't have like a major fight. But I don't think you need a fight to have a good arc.
Yeah,
No,
we've said
yeah,
this so
you
many
need
times.
good
We don't watch
waifus.
One Piece for the fights, boys.
I watch it for the wife.
Like, it's not this arc's
Wait, we're
fault.
gonna let him slide with that? Did you hear that in the background?
What did you say? What did
I
you
watched
say?
it for the waifus.
Goddamn simp.
It's not the arc's fault.
I'm
but-
here for the politics, the world building, and
Yeah.
Zoro flexing on the haters.
Yeah, but I was saying, it's not this arc's fault that Jack, the main antagonist, decided to challenge a giant mammoth and got wrecked in one shot.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jack the Jobber.
Well, see, the thing about Jack that I've always found so funny, I'm fine with the title Jack the Jobber. I think that's okay. Even as the number one stan of the number one Mammoth Boy, I think the thing you have to realize when reading Zou is how much Jack has done up to this point and the way he's really being set up as the first true sort of villain of the new world. Because we knew going into Dressrosa, like Doflamingo is going to get taken down. He's a warlord. He's still sort of on the level of the people that we were dealing with pre-time skip, right? I mean, he was a villain that we knew we had to take care of at some point.
He was terrified of Kaido as well. When Law was threatening him in Punk Hazard, he was like, all right, I can't mess with Kaido. I'd rather step down from the government,
Absolutely. Hody Jones, obviously, is a huge pushover during Fishman Island.
Pushover? How could you? Hody Jones is the man that will become the Pirate King.
Absolutely not. Hody Jones lost in the water to Zoro.
Yeah, that's just because Zoro's stronger than Luffy, so that's how he did it.
Well, okay. Well, that's like...
Okay,
I'm
let's
not
not get into this because neither of them could defeat Goku. So let's not get into that.
There you go.
Good argument.
On
I'm
the
with
topic
you.
of Jack, though, real quick, is, like I said, he really was the first major threat in my eyes of the new world. He's somebody who works directly with one of the emperors. And I think even the brutality that you see from him throughout the story of Zou in flashback, where you see him, crucify Inuarashi and Nekomamushi, where you see him just devastate the city on the back of Zou. And all of these minks together still can't deal with him. It's and you even hear the story before that too, how he took on 2 admirals. He went to try to free Doflamingo and he fought Fujitora. And he fought with Suru as well. And he fought with Sengoku was on the boat. So it's like, for as many L's as Jack takes during the story arc, of course, including the giant elephant trunk slap at the end of it, at the end of the day, Jack is somebody who I think deserves respect.
I must say, there definitely is not a drought of L's that Jack takes. He goes to rescue Doflamingo.
It's true, though.
Fails.
I have to say it's true that he has a 1 billion berry.
Yo, he comes in
bounty,
hot.
which is something we haven't seen anything close to that yet.
When he's introduced with the billion berries for the first time, I remember reading it. I was just like, what?
We all went insane because he's not even a Yonko. Like, he's whatever, like one of the subordinates, right?
Right.
Yeah, he's a commander.
He's a commander, and he has 100 billion berry bounty. So we all went insane. But I just wanted to say, like how many L's he took. He tried to save Doflamingo, failed. Then he tried to get RAIZO, failed. Then he tries to attack them again, gets slapped, and there's a bunch of more stuff afterwards. But
I was gonna say, he's not done taking L's in the story.
He's not done taking L's. It is not a drought.
No, it is interesting, and when he's first introduced, he's still in like his mammoth form. We don't even realize that it's a guy who's using an ancient zone. So at that point, it's like, why does this like random mammoth have $1 billion berries? But then obviously we realize what's going on. And I mean, I think there was a lot of world building in this arc. A lot of great stuff happened. We learned that Sanji is actually a Zoldyck, which was pretty crazy.
Zoldyck.
I'm so glad that I watched Hunter for the first time last year, because now I understand what you're talking about.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so we learned that Sanji's a Windsmoke, which is some kind of family that controls the underworld. They're killers. They're described as killers. I'm guessing some sort of assassin type gang. They have their own army, and it's absolutely, fascinating because we didn't know anything about Sanji previously, and now he has to get married, and he's all like, "No way, I'm getting married." And then he sees the picture of the woman, and he's like, "What?"
Right.
I must say, I always loved like how easily it flows from one arc to another in One Piece.
Sure.
Especially post time skip, by the way.
Yeah, well, because it's all kind of one giant story, right? The story kind of starts in Punk Hazard and still is going to this day. I mean, we're still, going through all those other lingering storylines. I think the one thing to bring up with the Sanji thing is how beautifully he laid that out with hints throughout the earlier portions of the story. Like, even if you go back to Alabasta with the first thing with Mr. Prince,
Dude, I didn't really want to talk about that until the next arc. That's fair. Because, I don't think the backstory isn't in this arc at all.
No.
Right?
Oh, sure. Okay, yeah. We get...
This is just, we know that he's, part of the Windsmoke family.
Right.
And that's why it probably said on his bounty, only alive as opposed to dead or alive.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was explained because in the previous arc, we saw that it said only alive, and we were like, why? But now we know why, because his family actually has a lot of pull, and they have some big plans, it seems, for him. And I bet Pudding turns out to be a total psychopath, but that's just my impression, because I like the surprise where, you have Big Mom, who's not the most attractive woman in One Piece.
How dare you?
Let's be real.
I thought you were a massive pro MILF individual.
Well, it depends, man. I'm a selective, MILF lover. But the point is that I knew that Pudding was going to end up being attractive because it was just setting up that way. And then I bet she's also now going to end up being a total psychopath. But that's just my guess.
So the one thing I found so interesting about the little Sanji development in this arc is little development. It's pretty massive, but as far as this arc goes, it's not like the major focus. I find it so fascinating because until now we had this laser focus on Punk Hazard. We're gonna take out Doflamingo. It's gonna lead us to Kaido. We're gonna defeat Kaido. Like, they had this whole plan going forward, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Big Mom shows up. Oh, she wanted this random thing to happen. Screws up everything. Like, it's a completely outside force. It goes to show you how vast the world is and that it moves on its own. It's not like the Straw Hats jump from arc to arc in their own linear way. There are so many outside forces at play, and if it happened to not go along with their plans, it'll screw them up.
Yeah, and they were supposed to go to Fishman Island, remember, before the time skip, and then that got derailed. So you're right, yeah.
Yo, Fishman Island was referenced in Alabasta.
Wait, what'd you say?
Fishman Island was referenced in Alabasta, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
For the first time. And then Animac, because he's the One Piece version at the time, he's like, okay, I guess the next arc's probably going to be Fishman Island.
I mean, to be fair, you do think that's where it's going to go after Sabaody. You don't expect him to immediately just send everybody off to their own locations for a time skip at that point in the story.
Yeah. Because then we have the whole Ace thing and the Paramount War, and things heat up very quickly. And even
prior to Sabaody, like, you had Thriller Bark that just came out of nowhere, right? It just kind of floated in your way.
Yeah, literally. And speaking of which, I thought that the whole idea of Zoe was really, really interesting. Obviously, you have to suspend disbelief, but once you get past that point, I think Oda is incredibly creative.
Disbelief? This is One Piece, bro.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you have to suspend disbelief in terms of like physics, but when you move beyond that, I think it's really cool the creative stuff that Oda comes up with, and this giant elephant who is actually an island. I thought was a really cool setup.
I love this so much. It's like the amount of detail you get in these like super tiny arcs and little locations. Like there was no need to necessarily introduce massive 1,000-year-old elephant with a civilization on top of it that happened to live in tree houses. Like all these little details in like the backgrounds of the manga panels just bring the story to life.
Absolutely. Also, it's interesting that you said, suspend disbelief, because correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure this is inspired by a real life place. So if you haven't already looked it up, look up Elephant Rock in Iceland. There's a whole elephant-sized island, or I should say, it's not elephant-sized, it's much bigger than that. But it's the island is carved out to look like basically a giant elephant. It looks really, really cool. If you haven't already seen it, like I said, Google search Elephant Island. And you could really see like a lot of the similarities between how Zunisha looks in the story and what the actual island looks like. So check it out.
Well, I'm doing it right now. I never even knew about that.
You never knew about that? Oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yo, I see it. That's so cool. Hell yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
No, yeah. Oda's really creative, and I love it, and I appreciate it. And we have to pay our respects, because in the chat, I saw Sam the Gunman and a bunch of people. They want to pay respects to Ryunosuke.
Oh, Ryunosuke! We miss him. We love him.
Yeah, I love Ryunosuke. He's one of my favorite characters in Fate Zero.
God damn it.
The thing about Ryunosuke is he also solidifies another reason why I love this arc so much, because it's not just about story and character development. It's also humor. Like, there's a lot of really funny moments throughout the course of Zoe.
Dude,
I mean,
all the ninja stuff was hilarious.
Yeah, the ninja thing was amazing.
Master Yomo in particular, the goat, letting Nami sleep on him throughout the course of the story arc.
Yo, you also have some cool Zoro moments also. Just like while they're riding in Zoe, they're just riding towards the capital or whatever. Yeah, and Zoro's just mentioning like, by the way, we pissed off Kaido because we fought Dofi, who was his main supplier. So Kaido's gonna want to kill us. So we should have. And they were like, wait a second, Zoro, you were paying attention this whole time? Like what? I always love that scene.
This whole arc is full of comedy, especially with the whole furries and their sort of animalistic tendencies and like their what was the thing called where they like physically touch people?
Oh, Electro.
That's called sex.
No, what was the thing? It was a word for it.
Oh, yeah, you mean not Snoo Snoo from Futurama. Of course, Garchu.
Yes. Garchu. So Sanji was taking full advantage of that.
As he should.
Back in the flashback, as he should. And I thought it was hilarious. Bro, guys, Chopper has a waifu. That was freaking awesome.
He's definitely coming back at the end of the series. That's Chopper's final ship right there. That's my prediction.
One thing that I wanted to mention, because we kind of skipped right to Zoe. We didn't talk about anything that happened before they actually got to Zoe.
Oh, sure.
We got introduced to the self-proclaimed son of Whitebeard, Edward Weevil.
What do you mean,
final warlord of the sea?
Looks exactly like him.
And his smoking hot mom.
Dude, this man out here for the MILFs. Yo, but what's your take? Do you think that this guy is Whitebeard's son?
I don't know. The way they portrayed it, it seems like he's just completely insane. So, and that his mother is trying to just cash in
dashingly handsome
on this idea. Well, I don't know. Knowing Oda, it could end up having some truth to it. But like from what we know so far, it looks like it's a total scam. Like he's stupid, and his mom is like kind of taking advantage of him to get famous and rich.
It is fascinating though the way they set Weevil up though, because it's shown he is a true threat. I mean, he took out the AO pirates. Mentioned that he's been hunting down members of Whitebeard's old crew. So it's not like this dude is just a pushover. There is something going on with him. We just don't know
he is strong. Yeah,
right.
And we also had some moments in the beginning with Bartolomeo, him not having a navigator and his crew just being completely insane. And people are like, how did you guys even survive this long, man?
Yeah.
And there was also there was a scene of Dragon right in the beginning. He was saying, all right, we have to gather all the revolutionary generals together because we're doing something very important soon.
Yeah, and then Burgess ends up, I guess he kind of ended up there accidentally, and then he revealed the location of the revolutionary headquarters to Blackbeard. And then later in the arc from the newspapers, we learned that apparently the headquarters was attacked by Blackbeard. So yeah, that was.
Yo, don't you just love that? We're focusing on Luffy's adventure, the crazy world building of this massive 1,000-year-old elephant. Just the freaking panels showing you what the culture's like over there.
Sure.
Also, massive battle happened in the background between two of the strongest and most dangerous political forces in the verse. How insane is that?
Well, I think that's, again, why this arc is so good, is because there's so many really rich world-building moments at the beginning and at the end, and even in the middle of the story arc, because you're finding out about the Vinsmoke family, you're finding out, with Beige, Peckham's coming back, and then finding out that Beige is going to backstab him. I mean, there's so much that's set up in this arc. And realistically, when you look at the size of the Zoe arc, it's only 30-something chapters?
Not even. It's 23.
22 chapters.
That's
insane.
insane.
And I would argue that there is more revealed in the Zoe arc that's important to the overall story of the series than in Dressrosa, which was the previous story arc. That was 100 chapters.
Yeah, because
yes and no.
Dressrosa is focused on that one kingdom, whereas here we got a lot of wider world reveals.
Because obviously we get a wide world reveal with Sabo.
Yeah.
Well, I would say there were a lot of pretty wide-ish world reveals that happened during Dressrosa that you're kind of underplaying. Like you have the
Fujitora.
Mostly on a personal level. Like you have a personal relationship now between the Straw Hats and Fujitora. We're understanding Fujitora's perspective of warlords and why they should be disbanded. We have the government starting to be suspicious of the warlord activity. We have this weird connection between Doflamingo and Kaido that we're going to soon begin to learn more about. We had Law's backstory, which definitely introduces a future element of how he might use a devil fruit power to give someone immortality. We've learned so much. We got revolutionaries. We got Blackbeard's generals. We had Sabo clash with Burgess over there. I would
still argue Zoe probably has as much, if not more, because of exactly what you already mentioned with the stuff with Blackbeard and with the revolutionaries. You get the reveal of the final warlord of the sea. You find out more stuff with Sanji's family. You find out Beige's new bounty. You finally meet the first Yonko commander.
Dude, I'm not saying that Dressrosa had more or less than this. I know. I'm just saying that
it's impressive, though, that for 23 chapters, the amount this had in comparison to 100 chapters of Dressrosa, but it's understandably why.
I mean,
the thing is, every arc is focused on something else.
Exactly.
Dressrosa was focused on the story of Dressrosa much more. This is an interconnector arc. This is just a conduit to the future. Your argument is good, and I agree with it, and that's why Zoe is great. But 5 chapters of the Reverie gave us so much more than this.
I would actually argue it didn't. I would say if you look at what happens in Zoe near the ending,
do not spoil anything for the Reverie.
Don't spoil the Reverie, by the way.
No, of course, no, we're not. But I'm saying if you look at what happens in Zoe, and you get that final reveal at the ending with the road poneglyphs, and you find out that this is the way to get to the One Piece, I mean, that is the great mystery of the series. There's all these other things that obviously we care about, and it's interesting for the story. But at the end of the day, we need to get to the One Piece. And this story arc, this little 20.
It's true, but we also have to explain what the
way to the One Piece.
We also have to explain what the Will of D is and stuff, that code started to crack in the Dressrosa arc.
All right, Dressrosa and Zoe are both phenomenal.
With the voice of all things.
That's not the point. Anyway, Zoe is an awesome arc. I just think that you disrespect Dressrosa a little bit.
No. Oh no, I still love. There are definitely aspects of Dressrosa that I like, but I am still saying that I would argue that Dressrosa and Zoe are sort of equal on the levels of the total overall reveals in relation to the story at large.
Okay, so I do think that you guys are both neglecting something, and that is appreciating Nami's outfit in this arc.
Oh my god!
You know what I liked more than Nami's outfit in this arc? The fact that when they walk into Zoe, there are these massive pineapple houses in the trees, and that's where they live. I thought that was so cool. This is living in a pineapple
on top of an elephant.
I was waiting for it. I knew it was going
to each his own, I guess, Nux. Like I was more into the Nami outfit. You were more into the pineapple-shaped.
I only have eyes for the Empress in One Piece. I'm sorry.
Cool.
You like Boa? It's all good.
Yo, Boa Briggs.
And I'm not gonna lie, man. Yamato might. We'll see what happens there.
Don't even get into that, my dude.
Hold on a minit. That is like full-on spoiler.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything.
Yeah,
we got a bunch of reveals, as Roger hinted at. We got the whole red poneglyph reveal with it being one of 4 coordinates that, when crossed, lead to Raftel, which is where we're assuming the One Piece is located, but I don't think it's been confirmed yet, right?
No, I don't think it has.
Dude, they explained poneglyphs so much in this arc, and I loved it, because up until now, it was kind of confusing. It was like, we had random poneglyphs with history, we had some with weapons, And then now there's red ones, and it's like they explained everything very thoroughly in this arc, and it really ties everything together and gives direction to the series.
We got a bunch of Wano reveals. So one of them is that the Kozuki Clan, right, is their ancestors were the ones who created the poneglyphs in the first place.
Right.
Then we learned that the current Kozuki Clan is trying to take down the Shogun and Kaido, who are working together to keep the island of Wano isolated. Then we learned that Momo is actually the son of Odin, who is the daimyo, or like the leader of this clan, but he's apparently dead. And all this other stuff was going on with Wano. We also learned that Odin and some of these guys in this arc actually served on Gold Roger's ship along with Shanks and all that other stuff. So yeah, like there was a lot of stuff.
I think that's really cool that you mentioned that, because if you remember in Skypiea, there was one poneglyph that was found with like the special poneglyph writing that was signed by Roger.
Yes.
Right.
So like, how did that happen if the Kozuki clan is the one that made the poneglyphs? What happened there?
Yeah, so then Odin must have been the one who wrote it for him, right?
Interesting. Don't say anything.
That is interesting. That is very interesting.
Dude, I love One Piece so much. One Piece is so good. Oh my god.
It really is.
Okay, we really can't gloss over. So, my favorite moment of this arc is, so we get the whole backstory, and you get to see both leaders of the island, the Nekomamushi, and what are their names? Sorry,
Inuarashi.
Yeah, we see them both being tortured. All the stronger people, like, they got gassed, and it was really dark, right? Because they were actually getting tortured for this information on where RAIZO is, and the entire time, from our perspective, they're like, RAIZO's not on the island. We don't know RAIZO. He's not here. He's not here. And and they lied to the Straw Hats as well, and like didn't say that RAIZO was on the island. So honestly, from my perspective, reading this for the first time, when I didn't think RAIZO was on the island. And then
I'm actually with you. When I first read it, I was like, dude, everyone cracks, especially these characters. We've never met them before. They're just these random like civilian type people. They get attacked by an emperor, bruh.
Yeah, it wasn't just the two leaders. Like, no one cracked, right? So I believed it. And then you have that one scene when Kanjuro asks, "Where's RAIZO?" And they're just like, "RAIZO is safe." I literally have goosebumps right now talking about it.
Oh, it's so good.
Love that scene.
That's hands down one of my top 10 favorite moments in the entire series, too, is seeing the resolve of the Minx. And that, in the face of dealing with Jack, who's one of the top commanders of one of the strongest Yonko of the sea, and all these other things, the tie to the Kozuki clan at the end of the day is the thing that really kept them together. I am still to this day blown away by that chapter. I will go back and rewatch the moment in the anime, with the swelling music and everything, just every once in a while. I needed a good cry.
Yeah, I gotta send that to Animac, because I watched it right before the podcast started, and I was just like, I was done. It was so nostalgic to me rewatching it, and you get the music and everything, and it's slowly done. I'm telling you, the pacing is so slow for One Piece that it's annoying sometimes, but in the anime, on the big moments when it's supposed to be emotional, it just hits even harder.
And that goes back to something you were saying earlier, too, is that when you were reading this for the first time, and I know, Nux, you said the same thing, you didn't see this coming at all. This was something that you truly thought, okay, I believe them. This guy, though, is just still torturing them, when despite the fact this guy clearly isn't there. And so, when that chapter did happen, I remember that was like one of the first big reactions that I did on my channel that kind of blew up, was the reaction to RAIZO is safe. And I remember like distinctly being sick the week that chapter came out. I wasn't feeling good. There's a lot of other stuff going on, and just like almost crying on stream reading it for the first time, because it just leaves such an impact on you and really endears you to these characters that you've only been with for about 20 chapters. And it instantly makes you want to see more with them.
So this is actually where I caught up to One Piece. When I was first reading it, this is where I caught up to the manga and started doing week by week. Like, this is where I got to.
Nice.
And I remember I actually finished, when I caught up, it was the RAIZO is safe chapter. That was the chapter that was my first cliffhanger in One Piece.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very cool. And I also thought that the ninja was a miscommunication, because even though we knew that Kinemon and Kanjuro were looking for him, all these people were like, we don't know who this is. So I thought, they had a 5-day battle. No one's talked. Clearly, they don't know who this guy is. And then it turned out that he was there. And actually, they chained him down to keep him hidden so he wouldn't go and fight too. And I thought that was really cool. And then we had, after that crazy emotional moment, you had the whole ninja jokes.
Yeah.
I'm
not going to lie. The ninja jokes are kind of cringe, but I like them anyway.
Dude, it was so funny. And I felt like they were like roasting Naruto, kind of.
No, I also got that vibe for sure.
Yeah, they were roasted. They were paying
around
respect.
this time.
Naruto actually ended around this time. Yeah.
Right, I was gonna say. So I thought it was like paying respect to Naruto when it happened. I'm pretty sure they even got like, isn't the Straw Hat on the Hokage Mountain or whatever at the final panel of Naruto?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
and it was mentioned in the SBS. Oda mentioned Naruto ending and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So actually, in this arc, speaking of when they all got chained up and stuff and tortured and whatever, it did make the Yonko seem like a much more imposing force. Like until now, we know that they're powerful and whatever, but they're also ruthless. They'll do whatever they need to do to get what they want. And it's definitely a nice setup because we have yet to actually meet a real emperor, aside from Blackbeard, but Blackbeard wasn't an emperor at that point.
That's correct. Also, another thing to point out is this further sort of shows off the information network that these Yonko have, right? Because at the end of the day, Jack still got to Zou. Zou is this island that no one's ever able to reach, and Jack got there. And so who was behind Jack getting to Zou? That's still a question that I think a lot of people have. It's like, what is the deal with Jack arriving there? How did Kaido have all this information? And I think one thing, again, without spoiling anything or saying anything about the future of the story, is I do feel like this story arc gets better upon rereading it, because there's a lot of stuff that's sort of laid out in Zou that you won't find out more about until far later into the series. And it still doesn't take away from the impact of those moments that we've already brought up.
Yeah, and it's implied that he has a Vivra card from someone, and that's how he's getting there, because he got there on two separate occasions, not just one. And this island is always moving, so it's like, how does he keep doing it?
Yeah.
Interesting. And I know you mentioned beige before, but I think that the idea of a supernova working with a warlord, with an emperor, is pretty great. Because the whole supernova generation, like this worst generation, it's like, okay, each of these guys have their eyes on the prize. They're gunning to become the next Pirate King. And you see that's not just something that's implied on Sabaody. It's implied again. Because like you have Law working with Luffy to take down an emperor. You have Kid, and the other two, bozos working together to take down another emperor. Like, what's it? It's Kid, Hawkins, and Singy dude.
Oh, Apu.
Apu! Thank you. The monkey from Aladdin, that guy. So the three of them working together, they want to take down Shanks. They end up bumping into Kaido, right? So like it's clear that they want to become the next big thing. And here you have one of the supernovas as a subordinate to an emperor. So I like that as well. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, he's trying to work his way up. Although Abu with a B is from Aladdin, Apu is from The Simpsons.
That is correct.
But his name is... Okay, whatever.
Anyway, I actually wanted to talk about the castle fruit, like which is beige's fruit.
Yes,
because
I
thought
that
it was
fruit.
freaking crazy.
Isn't that a sick fruit?
Yeah, what a crazy, interesting, and creative fruit. I thought it was great.
Yeah, because I think on Sabaody, we saw him like shoot guns from guns popped out of everyone in his body or something.
Yeah, and it wasn't really explained as to what that was, right? Where the cannonballs were shooting out of him and suddenly they were growing to the size of real cannonballs and he had this whole cavalry inside of him. So to find out, that it's the castle fruit, and to have that meeting with Sanji inside the
castle. I love that. I love that.
Cool.
Man, how does Oda do
also,
it? How is he that creative?
I love beige. Dude, Briggs, do you relate it? No, oh my God. Animac, for the first time ever, half of the podcast is Italian.
Baba da Boopy, che cosa di Luigi? That's me.
That's you.
Man, I thought Di Luigi was your last name, man.
You really didn't know that was his last name, Briggs?
No, I thought you said it was based off of... Is it actually your last name or you're lying?
Oh my God, Briggs.
No, Briggs, it's his last name. His name is Roger Di Luigi.
That's literally my name.
We were memeing about.
But bro, isn't it all based off of Roger the Pirate King? No, I'm kidding. I knew that.
Okay, that one you. All right, whatever. Anyway, so you guys are both Italian. So you and your Capone brother.
It's a little. I don't know. That's I don't know how I feel about that. Are you saying that all of us Italians have mafia ties? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, don't you?
I don't. Well,
we do not speak.
Roger, what you should have said is, I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
Well, I mean, that's true.
Well, anyway, and then Sanji leaves them all a letter. To you bastards, gonna meet some girl, but I'll be back, Sanji. And then you have Brooke crying, he won't be back. Like, that was also a good moment.
That was. Oh, speaking of, the "Sorry You Bastards" thing, because that's not what the line is in the official release. That was one of the lines in the scans. That's one thing I also wanted to point out was this is a story arc that there were so many really funny moments actually in the original scan release that weren't there coming into the official release. Now,
dude, the Ryunosuke line was not as good in the official one.
No, dude, I'm telling you, like that crucify and chill thing with Jinrami and the rest of them during the
I don't know because I read the official Viz translation, so I didn't look at the other one.
This was during a time where Viz still wasn't releasing weekly and wasn't releasing at a point where like you could read it every Friday. Now it's coming out where it's either Friday or on Sunday. It's a lot easier to follow along with the official release, but at the time there weren't really any of those options, especially in other parts of the world. And so a lot of people just relied on what those scans were saying. And yeah, the scans really did have really funny moments with Crucify and Chill, the Ryunosuke speech, the "Sorry You Bastards, I'll be back in a minute" thing. Yeah, it's like the old days of the community. It's weird to see how far we've come.
Yeah, and then what happens is with the whole Sanji thing is they have to go and fight for Wano against Kaido, but they also have to still clear up some stuff on Zou, and they have to rescue Sanji. So they have to split up. So the Straw Hats split up into different crews with different things that they're going to be doing for the foreseeable future. And we know that Luffy actually takes Nami, Chopper, and Brook along with him. So the guys that were kind of sidelined in Dressrosa are now going with the main guy. And then Carrot ends up joining as well, kind of unexpectedly. That's at the very end of the arc.
Sure. And we won't say anything more about Carrot, but on the topic of the Straw Hats, at least, that's the other.
I love the introduction of Carrot. It weeds out the weak.
Wait, what?
Those who simp for Carrot and those with culture.
Carrot definitely can jump really high.
Yeah.
So, that's cool, but she's no
that's literally your best quality.
Well, I do think it was the very first time you meet Carrot, she goes toe-to-toe with Zoro. I mean, that's a great introduction of a character. If you're going to do something like that, pair him up against the guy. Dude,
don't disrespect Zoro like that. I think Zoro was trying. Zoro would have looked at her and she would have shriveled up in an instant. Get out of here.
I'm not saying that Zoro wouldn't beat Carrot. Of course Zoro would beat Carrot. But I am saying that at the very least, when you throw somebody in and it's a character that you don't know from a race in the One Piece world that we know nothing about, we've only heard prior to this story arc, right, that the Minks are savages that eat people, because it's all the things that Usopp was hearing, to meet them and to see they're actually really great and, loving and all the great qualities of the Minks. It's just a really great arc of a story, I think. I loved it.
Actually, and I mean, this arc is... I love the dynamic of Neko Mamushi guy. The way they would, they hated each other. One was the leader of the Minks during the day. One was the leader at night. But, they have, this crazy bond also.
Yeah, just call them the Cat King and the Dog King.
No.
Weak mindset. I'd rather mispronounce it.
Right? Are their English names?
Yeah, and also, speaking of, Mr. DiLuigi-san, how is it that they didn't recognize... what's his name? Kinemon?
Do we want to go into that a little bit? I don't know.
Do you have an answer for that, or is it a mistake?
I don't want to answer that at risk of spoiling something.
Just answer if you have an answer.
I think yes, they do explain that.
Okay. In that case, let's go.
I don't want to get into something in a later story arc, because I almost slipped earlier and I was like, whoop, caught myself when I turned it into something.
Yeah. I know. I was thinking of saying also.
No, but this arc definitely was great overall. It does a lot of world building. A lot of things start fitting together. And I think it was very creative and interesting. But I do think that a special kind of person will really, really like this arc. And we all know that those are furries.
Which is why Tekking likes this arc.
Hashtag not a furry.
Yeah, he loves it.
Because he's a furry.
Yeah.
Well, no, he's hashtag not a furry, bro.
Carrot, not be a furry. You could like Carrot and not be a simp.
Dude, whoever's no. If you like Carrot, you're a simp. But you're not necessarily a furry if you like Carrot, but you're definitely a simp.
For Carrot?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't dislike Carrot.
Give me a reason as to why exactly you should be classified as a simp for liking Carrot. I want to know. Full explanation.
Because she has massive feet.
Okay. Now, a big thing that we need to talk about, though, is the fact that Luffy and, the general alliance that he's forming, because he formed an alliance with the Minks, he formed an alliance with the Kozuki Clan, and obviously with Law. Yeah. And now this alliance is challenging two emperors, Kaido and Big Mom, in some way.
Yeah. The ninja heart pirate.
And the funniest thing is he pissed them both off. He pissed off Kaido by whacking Doflamingo, and he pissed off Big Mom on Fish Cake Island.
Fish Cake
yeah,
Yeah, he and now he's gonna piss her off if he tries to stop Sanji's marriage, which is the intention. So yeah, it's a pretty gutsy move by Luffy, and we're gonna see what happens, but it's definitely gonna be interesting.
Absolutely.
And then
I love how not only do they have an altercation with each of them, but they have to actually attack each of them. Like, it's made clear that of the road poneglyphs, one is in the possession of Big Mom, and the other is in the possession of Kaido, and they need to get both.
Oh yeah, true. So that was also the case that they made. They told us that they have the red poneglyphs. So if Luffy wants to find Raftel, which he obviously does, that's the end game. He has to take on these emperors.
Exactly.
Now, another thing that was introduced in this arc or set up was the Reverie, which is the every 4 years they get together, like 50 different nations. The rulers of these nations get together, I guess in Marijoa, the
capital.
Right. And then they kind of do diplomatic talks and all that type of stuff. And we saw that Vivi is heading out there with her father, and presumably a lot of other important people are going to be all gathered in one place.
Yeah, you see Stelly during the story arc as well. I think near the very beginning, even when you get the little hints of what's going on at Reverie, RAIZO, you see Stelly, Sabo's brother from the Great Terminal all those years ago. You're sort of seeing him all grown up, and you're wondering what's going on with that character.
Yeah. Oh yeah, true. And we also see like the Fishman Island people, like Shirahoshi and shit. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's funny because it's like the perfect place for Blackbeard to hit if he wants to wipe everyone out.
Dum dum dum. Dude, I love the Reverie so much. I'm so excited for that. I know it's really short, but that's going to be a full episode, just the Reverie.
Oh, it has to be. Yeah,
absolutely.
There's so much information there. Just based on what's even set up during Zoe, that it has to be a full episode. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of setting up Zoe, on reread, on reread, Zoe is much better. Zoe is much better than the first time around, I have to say.
That applies to every single arc, honestly.
I wouldn't say it's every arc. Like, there are some scenes that when you see them the first time, it's just like, bruh. But on reread, when you see, like, Momonosuke crying and saying, like, I want to beat Kaido, it's like, that actually hits home when you actually get to Wano.
Sure.
You know?
Dude, I've been watching it. Like, I agree, not every single arc, but honestly, like, I've been watching and reading weekly since about pre-time skip Sabaody, I believe. And dude, it's every arc I'm like, it's like a 7, and then I reread it, I'm like, okay, it's an 8.5. Like, like Dressrosa, when I dude, that was on for like 4 years or 3 years when I was watching the anime weekly, and I honestly did not like it at all, and I've reread it twice now, and it's one of my favorite arcs in the entire series.
So I mean, for me personally, I can't say, because I read Dressrosa in one shot. Like, I only caught up to the manga weekly around here. Like, the first slow, my first really annoyingly slow pacing was like the first half of Whole Cake when I was reading it weekly.
Sure.
Which is why I only have great things to say about Dressrosa, and Roger's a jaded elitist.
Not at all. I started doing my One Piece content on YouTube. I was still working for Disney at the time. I was not a full-time content creator at all. I was doing it as just like a spare thing. And I started with the Usopp observation hockey chapter. That was the first one. And then progressively over the course of, I don't know, like a year, when I was trying to figure out, okay, like what can you get claimed for? What can't you get claimed for? I was getting strikes on videos every week because I was using panels. I think the first one that exists still is the Kaido Reveal, chapter 795. So, I mean, there was still a time where I was doing it week to week, and obviously, like, the birdcage stuff was kind of annoying, but I still thoroughly enjoyed Dressrosa. Like, I think some people in the chat were definitely saying, oh, Roger hates Dressrosa or something. Not at all. Like, I would still say, even upon reading it week to week, I thought it was like a solid 8. I enjoyed Dressrosa, but I also
solid 8. Get out of here! Get out of here! It's at least a 9. What you talking about?
No, well, you didn't let me finish, Mr. Flex King. As I was going to say, upon binging it, I would probably say it is about a 9 because there is a lot of great moments in there. I think there is a lot of stuff, especially in the beginning of Dressrosa and the fight with Doflamingo, the stuff with Corazon and his backstory, where the birdcage really isn't as much of a problem as it was reading it week to week.
I get that.
I think Nux just got flexed on by Roger.
There we go.
For the first time.
Dude, the amount of times I've heard Roger put down Dressrosa. What can I say? So you may not be aware of this, but I actually, when I caught up to One Piece, I would read every chapter with your reaction to it. And this was long before I ever started really making anime videos.
Yo, I used to do the same thing, man.
Oh, you guys, you don't like me or anything. I'm making a chopper face right now.
Dude, I'll be honest. Nice. I did that until you started doing the reactions.
See,
the official release.
That's so funny. I'm
literally until there. I did every single week with your reaction.
Yeah. And the thing is, I mean, I don't know if this is like a whole topic for a different show, but I think I'm still happy that I did that for things that I can't even talk about yet. But I am happy that I eventually did it because I think it's something where if you're growing, I completely understand it. I don't look down on anybody who's like, oh, I still want to read the scans. I get it. If you're impatient and you want to read it, go ahead, read it. It's fine. And I know a lot of people that are like that, Nux, who are just like, well, I can't read week to week with you anymore. I'll go back and watch a reaction if it's a hype chapter, but I'm not going to read it alongside you because you're not reading it when it first technically drops. But
I mean, no offense. I totally understand and respect the change on your part. But so for me, watching your reactions before I even had even a platform to formulate an opinion, I didn't even have a Twitter at that point, right? So I basically it was every week of, man, Dressrosa was kind of garbage.
I think you're misremembering because if you go back to a lot of those reactions, that was not the case. Dressrosa, I liked a lot of Dressrosa.
I didn't watch your reactions on Dressrosa. I started watching your reactions after. I started watching your reactions Zoe area, just moving on when I caught up to the manga. And then it was like, wow, this is so much better than Dressrosa. And I was like, that is
okay, guys. We have to talk about something else. We have to talk about the fact that only Momo and Luffy were able to hear the elephant Zoe speak.
Yes, I love that.
And Momo was actually able to give him instructions or orders, if you will, to fight back against Jack.
So and that's my favorite moment in the arc.
And we also learned that Zoe apparently has been cursed or something for disobeying an order, doing something wrong, and that's why has to keep walking through the ocean. Like, we didn't get any more than that, but it was very interesting, and I was wondering why that whole thing happened, because we know that Luffy can talk to animals and understand them, kind of thing. Beasts, we've seen that before, but then why is Momo special? Because Momo's not a D.
The beautiful thing about the stuff with Zunisha and the setup there is that, it gives you more intrigue with what's going on with the Void Century. I think that's still one of the great mysteries of One Piece, is really what happened during the Void Century. And it's clear based on the timeline laid out in Zoe that whatever Zunisha did happened during that time. And so how much of an impact was the thing that cursed Zunisha or whatever to walk the globe? How much of an impact did that have on the Void Century as a whole? What did Zunisha do during the Void Century that's ultimately going to reveal some greater truth about the world at large?
So the Void Century was 800 years ago, but the elephant's been around for 1,000 years at least, right?
Right. So the elephant's been around for 100 years before this Void Century.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting point. I do wonder, I told you, the Void Century is the biggest, most interesting mystery to me. Yeah. And I think everything else, the poneglyphs, the D, all of it is connected to that, the One Piece. So I am very curious every time we get any sort of hint about it. But so far, we only get more questions than answers, but still, I love it.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. And also, when they talk about all these things like the Reverie and Wano and all of that, you have Neko Mamushi says something quite cool. He says that we're going to need to increase their strength, and they're going to need to gather certain allies. Animac, are you familiar with any of the names they mentioned?
Wait, I don't remember which part of the arc you're talking about.
Chapter 820. They're sitting together. They just got RAIZO back, and they were all chilling, and they were like, "Oh yeah, and we're going to need to definitely do shiz because Wano's going to be dangerous and stuff." We're going to need to gather some allies.
Yeah, so I do remember Phoenix, Marco the Phoenix. Was right?
Marco the Phoenix, the legend.
So we learned that he apparently lost. He was the last remnant of the Whitebeard Pirates, and a year before.
Gathered the last remnants.
And a year before he was defeated by Blackbeard.
Right.
But he's believed to still be alive.
Isn't that cool? There was this massive war that happened during the time skip. Hello?
The payback war is still something that I feel like we need to get paid off on, though. Like,
what do you mean by that?
I would love to see some type of flashback of it, and I don't know if we're ever going to get that at this point.
I'm not sure why you would want something like that. I mean, sure, it would be cool. I get that, but like, what questions do you have about it?
Oh, nothing. I just want to see it. I think it'd be cool.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying it because, like, oh, I would love to find out some other secret about, why Blackbeard's don't have to Whitebeard. No, I mean, that's clear.
I think it's clear that it's within their character. Like, there's certain things that I don't need to see as long as it's something that they would do. Like, for example, like, you had Aokiji versus Akainu, right? I understand it. It makes so much sense. Sengoku steps down. They both have a completely different ideological view of justice, so they fought it out, and then Aokiji left. So, too, the Payback War, Marco and the remnants of the Whitebeard Pirate were like, they wanted to avenge Pop, so they attacked Blackbeard and were destroyed.
The Payback War, though, just seems like something that's rich for a film adaptation at some point. You know how, like, they'll flesh out things that are teased sort of in the manga that we never actually get to see?
Dude,
and
I wish instead of the One Piece filler movies, they had, like, Payback War.
That's what I'm saying. That would be so sick, man. I would love that.
Yeah, that'd be sick. As a filler movie.
Absolutely.
Not like, if we had a full arc just explaining the Payback War in goddamn One Piece, I would freak out.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point because we knew that somehow Blackbeard took over Whitebeard's territory, but clearly there had to have been some sort of fighting in order for that to happen. And now in Zou, it's finally revealed that yes, he had to fight Marco and others in order to get that territory.
Right.
Yeah, there's another war that I'm thinking of that I want a movie of way more, but we're not going to talk about that.
Oh, yeah, that's later down the line. Yeah. One thing I also want to bring up here, too, we kind of moved away from it pretty quickly, but I think it's another reason why I like this arc so much, is you also have to remember how long the Straw Hats were separated at this point. Real time, they've been away from each other for, 3 years? And so to finally see all these characters reunite, obviously Sansanji and Caesar, but Caesar obviously isn't a Straw Hat, so that's fine. But to get all of these characters together again in a story arc and just see them interacting was another huge reason why this arc was a treat for me week to week. It was like I missed seeing Nami, I missed seeing Chopper and the rest of the crew. Obviously, Dressrosa was great, getting to see Frankie and Robin and all those characters have a chance to shine. But getting to see the crew back together again, I think was really nice.
Well, most of the crew, but yes,
sure.
I agree.
Yeah.
And so after, Jack got slapped for the second time by Elephant Son, yeah?
Yes.
So we had a very cool call from a certain snail anime.
Yep.
Did you realize what happened? Snail says, it appears our communications with Jack have been cut off, Lord Kaido. And who was the one talking? Animek.
Yeah,
Virgin
I remember the moment, but I forget who was talking.
So it was the snail had like those piano teeth. It was Apu.
Oh, Apu, yes.
That's right.
Yo, Apu was in the kid group that was fighting Kaido, and now he's working for Kaido. He says, Lord Kaido, the communications were... Hello?
Yeah, so we saw Kid got his ass beat by Kaido, right?
Right.
So he was kind of out of commission, but we saw that Apu was up on that floating island before Kaido jumped off, right?
Well, that was Rouge. That was Rouge.
Rouge. That was the monk guy.
Oh, that was the monk. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so yeah, I wonder what happened there.
Apu was in Kid's group. It was Kid, Hawkins, and Apu that were staring up at Kaido.
Right.
Yeah, so I wonder what happened there. Like
on the island where Killer is mentioning that, maybe this isn't a good idea to make this alliance, and that's when Urouge is on the cloud. Kaido jumps down and then says he wants to start the greatest war the world's ever seen.
Yeah, so I wonder what happened there because maybe Kaido was like, "You got to join me or else," and some of them were like Apu were like, "Sure," and Kid was like, "No," and that's why he's paying. But I seem to remember that whole alliance, Hawkins, Kid, Apu, they wanted to take down Shanks, right?
Yes, but they ended up getting, a bit up a little first. And they bumped into Kaido by accident, and it was a mistake that they'll never forget.
Was that an accident, though?
Well, on their part, I think it was.
We're still moving away from, though, what I was going to bring up earlier as well is, greater ties between what we've already seen in the series without spoiling things that are going to happen in the future. Caesar's weaponry, for example, is something we find out during the story arc, because the whole reason Jack is called the Drop is this gas that Caesar was developing back in Punk Hazard. So that further goes back to what I forgot who was saying either Briggs or Nux earlier, but the whole thing where it's like it feels like one long continuous story arc. It's like we've been sort of in the same story arc since Punk Hazard, and little by little there's these little glimpses of the things that Oda will throw in there that maybe you might not necessarily catch the first time around, but it's obviously alluding to things you've already read and heard about.
Yeah, and I'm very interested in how Dr. Vegapunk ends up tying into all of this, because obviously he is tied to Caesar and these inventions. Right now, we're focusing more on the Caesar and his gas weapons, but I feel like Dr. Vegapunk is kind of like the mastermind behind everything. And I think there's a lot of things that are going to happen in terms of Vegapunk that we don't know yet, tied to the Void Century and everything else. I think there's, it's all going to come together, man.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely mentioned a lot.
I got to ask you, who are your top 5 minks off the top of your head?
Like as characters or as waifu?
Yeah. As characters, not as waifus. Just your top 5 favorite mink characters.
Okay, so I do like the 2 kings, the dog and the cat.
Gotcha.
I mean, I liked a lot of the other guys too. Like the musketeers were pretty badass, and the guy with the bandages, what's his name? Pedro's
cool.
Yeah, and the guy who was with Big Mom and has the cute eyes. Peckham's, yeah. But I mean,
honestly, I think Peckham's is my favorite. At this point of the story, he's my favorite mink. No, what am I talking about? Beppo, Stan Beppo.
I was gonna, what the heck, Beppo?
Oh yeah, Beppo's cool too. I think Carrot is interesting, and the dog girl who just licks everyone's face. I think she was interesting too.
Yeah. No Master Yomo. Hurts to hear you're not a fan of Master Yomo.
Oh, the sheep dude?
Of course.
I mean, he's okay, but not top 5.
I stand Master Yomo. He's got to be up there for me.
Yeah, and then basically you just had the big finale of the arc discussing where we're going forward. You had we talked about the little scuffle between the revolutionaries and
Blackbeard.
Oh, but you know what else was actually really sick? That Luffy heard. This is the first time Luffy realized Dragon was his father, right?
Well, he was old, but he didn't know what he looked like.
No, he did. I mean, he didn't realize he was the leader of the Revolutionary Army.
Yeah, I don't think he did, because in this arc, he's like, or look, that's your father. He's the leader of the Revolutionary Army, Monkey D. Dragon or whatever, and they show him a picture. He's like, that's him.
Exactly, right. He remembers Garp telling him, like, your father, Monkey D. Dragon, blah, 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 blah. He is a revolutionary. And he's like, okay. And then it shows in the newspaper, the commander of the Revolutionary Army, Dragon. And Luffy's just like, Nani?
Monkey.
Yeah, you would have thought that having talked to Eva about that stuff that he would have figured it out, but I guess not.
Yeah. Someone else in the chat also brought up, I forgot about this. They canonize Panda Man during the story arc as well.
Yes,
Panda Man is one of the minks. That's right.
Yeah, that's funny. Also, other cute little details. The fact that Mammoth Boy is in fact a fishman. So while he had a devil fruit, so he couldn't move underwater, but he was underwater and he could breathe.
One extra thing that made him great too is the fact that we've never seen a fishman with a devil fruit.
Right.
Like what would happen to them underwater? So the fact that he's just laying there, he can still breathe. He's totally fine. He's like, damn, I need them to come pick me up now.
And also, dude, how do you not like Kaido, Animac? He had a Kamina line in this arc.
Who the hell do you think I am?
Yeah, that's right.
No, I mean, I'm not saying I don't like him. He definitely seems like
menacing,
overpowered and badass for sure, but we don't know much about him.
Well, we know he's stronger than Kid.
Yeah, well, that's
we know that much. Yeah,
because Kid turned into like a little sack of poopy on the floor.
And we definitely know that he's ambitious.
Oh wait, guys, we're being corrected. Vanderdecken is a fishman with a devil fruit.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, but they weren't in water.
Right, he was never in water.
That's right. That's right. But this is the first time we
see a fishman in water with devil fruit.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is weird. Yeah, they're in giant bubbles underwater, but we don't see them in actual water.
Right. That is correct.
Weird.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yeah. So, in terms of the whole, what were we just talking about, Nux?
We were talking about the revolutionaries.
Oh no, Kaido. So yeah, he definitely seems interesting to me because he's clearly ambitious. So he has this whole plan with the Shogun. He's using Wano. He is trying to create the greatest army of all time, where each single person has a devil fruit power. That's why he needs the smile artificial devil fruits. So he's clearly planning a lot of things. We don't know what exactly or why, but I am interested in finding out.
Sure.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
It's interesting too, looking at the end of the story arc and the awesome way that it leads into Whole Cake. Because not only do you get those connections, obviously within Sanji's flashback, with there's going to be a wedding that's taking place. We're going to see more of Beige and Pudding and all these characters, but you end the story arc with this really ragtag group of characters where you're thinking like, this is who we're going to be following throughout the course of the next arc. You've got.
It was also cool to meet the Heart Pirates for a second there. Also on
totally.
Yeah, they were chilling up there, yeah.
But to get to the end of the story arc and you see, okay, we've got Luffy, Nami, who's been gone for a long time, Chopper as well, Brook, you get Peckham's alongside Pedro and Carrot. So now we have
I love Peckham's. Honestly, Peckham's is such an underrated character. He's great.
Well, there were a lot of talks at the time. I even remember this, like in the early week-to-week days, of people going, "Oh, I wonder if Peckham's is eventually going to become a Straw Hat." So it's interesting to.
Peckham's was the first person to really cement the fact that Logia users aren't powerful anymore. So I always remember him for in Fishman Island, it's like you had the absolute legend, well-revered Caribou, right? And you just slapped him.
Yeah.
And he's like, in the new world, Logia users are not a threat. And I was just like, bruh, this is like, holy crap, Luffy couldn't beat Smoker in freaking with Logtown.
And it's particularly funny because of what you brought up earlier, too, where Peckham says these goofy little beady eyes.
Yes.
Devil Fruit power, he turns into a turtle.
He turns into a turtle, and this man is like, yes, I have a bounty of like 400 million or the crazy stupid number.
Yeah, but that shell is as strong as diamonds, so don't underestimate it.
That's right.
And from JoJo's, we know that diamond is unbreakable.
That's a good point.
But so is the Reverie? Nux, hold on. Is the
Yes.
Reverie taking place at the same time as the whole Big Mom thing, the wedding?
Partially. So parts of.
Parts. Read it.
You'll read it.
All right. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I wanted to say before we forget, next week we will be reading chapters 825 until 850. It will be 25 chapters. We will be venturing into the Whole Cake arc, and it's a pretty epic place to end.
Hell yeah.
And guys, thank you again for supporting the podcast and sharing it. We appreciate it. If you're interested in the Dragon Ball version, that's still going on. It's not on our YouTube channel, but it is on Twitch Wednesdays, 4 p.m. Eastern time, and also on the podcast platform. So just check it out. And if you are a Rant Cafe podcast fan, definitely follow us on Spotify, because this week we are moving to Spotify for our exclusive deal. And it's free to follow us there. So definitely do that.
Nice.
Thank you.
Hell yeah.
Follow you guys on Spotify. Get your Joe Rogan deal. There you go.
Hell yeah.
We just did. A few less zeros, I promise you.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, final thoughts on Zoe, Animac? You're the virgin?
No, I loved it. The creativity of it, the world building, and how it sets everything up. I thought it was great. And you know that I'm really interested in the poneglyphs and the Void Century and all that other stuff, the backstory with Roger. So I thought I got everything I needed, and I did not miss like an epic final fight or anything at all.
Hell yeah.
Right on.
So, but as far as like comparing it to other arcs, like we're out of the arcs that are post time skip, we had Fishman Island, we had Punk Hazard, Dressrosa, and Zoe. How would you rank those four so far? Just off the top of your head.
I would put Dressrosa first. Zoe and Punk Hazard would be fighting for second, and Fishman Island would be fourth.
Interesting. Wow, you like Punk Hazard then?
Well,
I did like
I
Punk
prefer
Hazard.
Punk Hazard, I think, to Zoe also.
Because I like Punk Hazard.
Yeah, I love Punk Hazard.
But going back to Punk Hazard, and I think Punk Hazard is some really high highs, but going back to it, I think it doesn't age as well as Zoe does. But
That's because at the end of the day, what ages best in like our eyes is where you see how the world evolved.
Right.
And you have much more like just more general world building, even though in Punk Hazard itself, you had the crazy setup, I think, to Dressrosa, which I think was fantastic.
Yeah, with the Joker thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And even though Fishman Island is the lowest ranked of your four, which I don't think is surprising at all, I loved Fishman Island. I think that the powerful racial themes in Fishman Island are so good.
Yeah, funny
they are.
enough for me,
Sure.
I would rank it Dressrosa, Zoe, Fishman Island, then Punk Hazard.
Okay, if
I
the
think
Punk
most people
Hazard,
would agree with
Punk
that.
Hazard did have those Yeti brothers, which is a minus, but everything else was quite good.
Punk Hazard still has the moment to me, which will always be a reason why I love that story arc, where Law literally kicks off the rest of the story for the New World, where he fights Virgo, cuts him in half, cuts the entire facility in half, and then says, I'm here to break the gear. And like that, to me, if you ask me, what are your top 10 favorite One Piece moments? Like that is also absolutely on my list.
This is so weird. It wouldn't be in mine. I love Law, but that wouldn't be in my top 10.
Oh, it's definitely in my top 10.
What the hell, man? What's wrong with your top 10 list?
I love it.
RogersBase One Piece moments. You got RAIZO.
Yeah, and I got that for sure.
Dude, I'm just in Ennis Lobby alone, there's 3 better moments.
I agree with that. Well, I agree with that. Now that I'm thinking of 3. Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
But that's not to say that,
anyway, well, this is a good place to wrap things up, I guess.
And don't underestimate Tashigi Smoker, guys. That was Punk Hazard.
Yeah, guys, I gotta run. Thank you so much, Roger, for joining us. I want to apologize to everyone if I was a little bit quiet today. I'm still recovering from my 24-hour stream.
Oh, no worries. No worries. Thank you for having me. Like I said, greatly appreciate it.
Roger, bro, I'm so happy you were able to make it for Zoe.
Of course. I'm happy you were able to let me know. Even though it was last minute, I'm like, oh, thank God. You're happy time, 3 p.m. Pacific time. I just wrapped up a 4-hour Hades stream so I could finally go eat and relax. It'll be great.
Everyone, please check out RogersBase on YouTube and Twitch, correct?
Absolutely. Yep. RogersBase everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a reference to his real name.
It's a reference to his real name, but also to One Piece.
That's right. That's right.
And the base is BASE, not the Davey 504 base.
Base.
Correct.
Everybody slap like slappers.
Yeah. See you guys next week. And until next time, see you, Space Cowboys.
Bang.
Bye-bye.